Welcome back. We are inside because it is raining, so I couldn't do an outside episode today, unfortunately. But there are two different types of people that we can separate into groups. The first one are a deferrer, and the second one are outliers. But what is the difference between a deferrer and an outlier, and how do you know if you're a deferrer or an outlier? We'll get to that in a minute. Let's define the two first by giving some examples of both of them and how they differ. So imagine you have two people with the same dream. Their dream is to go bodyboarding for 6 months in Argentina at the very southernmost tip of the world. Super windy, super wavy. There's some like resort lodges down there that I've been looking at myself. And they both have this dream to go bodyboarding in Argentina. The deferrer and the outlier both plan the trip. They both write it down in their Apple Notes. They start asking AI for research tips and where to go and how expensive it's going to be. They'll plug it into ChatGPT and it will give them advice and how much it's going to cost roughly. They'll write it down in their notes. The deferrer and outlier will tell their friends about it. They'll tell their mum about it. They'll both buy a bodyboard or look up bodyboards to invest in before they go on the trip or to get when they're out there. And they have it all planned out. So they've done all the same actions up until this point. But this is where the two types of people diverge. A deferrer and an outlier do two completely different behaviors at this point of the planning situation. Let me tell you what the deferrer does first before what the outlier does. The deferrer stops here, but you don't realize they've stopped because they keep telling you about their bodyboarding trip to Argentina, but they haven't taken any action from it since they've been telling you. They just keep repeating themselves like, oh yeah, I can't wait to go. Yeah, going to go in about a month. I've got everything lined up, everything planned. I know exactly what flight to get at what time at what airport. I know when I'm going to land there, what I'm going to do every single day, and all of these different things, right? But they don't actually take any action. Instead, when you ask them, I thought you were going to go on that trip to Argentina a month ago. They say, oh yeah. I'm just saving up a little bit more money and then I'm going to go next month. Or, yeah, no, it's my birthday in 2 weeks, so I'm going to wait until then until I can go afterwards. Or, yeah, no, I've done a lot of planning. I'm going to book it tonight. You're not going to see me for months. 6 months passes and they still haven't gone on the trip. They're still telling you about it. They're still planning it. They're still about to go. But fundamentally, they're still on the exact same soil as 6 months before, and they haven't made the trip. What ends up happening is a year passes and they start telling you about this new trip or this new job or this new business that they're going to start. And the whole cycle repeats itself. They start taking notes. They start writing things down. They start telling you and their mum about it. They convince you that this is different this time. It is different this time. They're going to take some real action and you're going to see the results. You're going to be the first person to see it. They're going to change their lives. Now, let's compare that to the outlier. But before we do that, does that sound familiar? Do you know people who are like that, or are you like that yourself? Well, if you are like that yourself, congratulations, you are part of the 90% or 99% of people to ever exist. And we've all started at this point. We've all been deferrers. So don't worry, we're going to go through how you can become an outlier today in this video, and how you can stop deferring and start living your dreams and have actual fun life. So outliers. We said the deferrers and the outliers got to the same point of their trip. They planned it all out. They knew exactly what they were going to do, where they were going to go. But the outlier does something different. The outlier does one fundamentally different thing. They stop talking and they start acting. It sounds super simple, right? But The outlier, once they've figured it all out, done all the things, they realize they have enough money to do it, they just book the flight, they just book the hotel, and then they go. Instead of talking about it to everyone, they shut up and they take some real action. And this is where the problem usually lies. If you talk about doing something too much, you don't end up doing it because your brain gets the exact same dopamine response, the exact same reward when you talk about it and when you do it. So if you talk about it too much, you get the same reward. You basically trick your brain to think, oh, I just did it. I don't have to do anything now. I can relax. That's why people are deferrers versus outliers. The outliers don't talk and they do it and then they get the real reward. The deferrers plan it, then talk about it too much, and then their motivation goes away and then they go on to the next thing because they spoke about it too much and they deferred it another month, another 6 weeks, and that cycle repeats itself. Someday is a disease that will take your dreams to the grave with you. Do you really want to be a deferrer for the rest of your life? Because you're going to look back in your deathbed and realize all of these dreams that you had, all of these places that you wanted to go, all of these businesses that you wanted to start, all these places you wanted to live, all these languages you wanted to learn, and you didn't do it because you deferred it. You thought, give me a year and I'll do it. Oh, I'll do it in 2 weeks. No, motherfucker, you need to start it now. You need to start it now. The best plan is to start. And it's cliche, but it's not cliche because no one does it. This is a problem with cliche things. It's cliche for a reason. People repeat it for a reason. It's obvious for a reason. It's obvious because no one does it. So it has to be repeated. So how do you become a outlier if you are a deferrer? How do you start taking action towards your dreams versus just planning them? Well, let me give you a story to highlight this. So I used to be a deferrer, like all of us have been, and you probably are right now. And I wanted to start this podcast. And I started listening to podcasts when I was about 15 or 14 years old, on and off. But I then started going to the gym and started to listen to some more self-improvement podcasts, which really changed my life, changed my behaviors, and helped me stop becoming a deferrer. Started reading books on how to take action, stuff like the 4-Hour Work Week, which I highly recommend you reading. And after all of this, I was still hesitant to start my own show. Why? Because I thought I was too young. I thought I wasn't smart enough. I thought I wouldn't be able to get any guests. I thought, oh, I'll write down the entire plan and then I'll do it. I'll do it after I finish university, or I'll do it when I'm 25. Just gonna have a sip of my coffee. Today we're having a Lavazza Italian roast. Very, very good coffee company from Turin. The thing I love about Italian coffee, it's actually Ethiopian coffee because coffee beans don't grow in Italy, right? But it's called Italian coffee or Italian roast, I think because they roast the coffee in Italy, but they get the beans from Ethiopia because Italy colonized Ethiopia. So they basically stole their coffee beans and rebranded it as Italian. Anyway, that's a side note, but I highly recommend drinking Italian roast coffee beans if you haven't tried them. They're quite dark, quite chocolatey, sometimes a bit bitter, but really good. Anyway, what were we talking about? Oh, the analogy of the podcast. So I put off doing a podcast for at least a year. I was preoccupied with other stuff. Basically just deferred it. You know, it was in my mind, but you know when you need to do something, if it sticks in your mind for more than a day, more than a week, more than 6 months, the longer it sticks in your mind, the longer it survives in your memory, the more you should probably do it. So I first started thinking of starting a podcast maybe a year or two ago. And that thought never left my brain. It was always in the background. It just stuck in the back of my mind. And it got to the point where I finally just took action because I was walking back home one day and something just clicked in my mind. And I stopped deferring and I started taking action. And I did write stuff in my notes. It's good to have a little plan, but I knew I have to start it as soon as possible. So instead of trying to figure out how to get guests on the show, all I did was just find a radio room on my university campus and record a solo episode of me extracting lessons from my favorite books that I've read recently. And the reason why I did this is because if you want to be an outlier and not a deferrer, you have to take action really quick. Inspiration is perishable. When you first get the thought to do something and you get that surge of dopamine and you get that excitement, that means take action as soon as possible. Someday is a disease that'll take your dreams to the grave with you. It's so easy to have this idea and then write it down and plan it, but all you're doing is deferring it. And your inspiration to do that will wane very, very quickly. So if you want to stop being a deferrer and you want to start taking action, you need to act on your inspiration and on your ideas super fast. And you have nothing to lose, especially if you're young. You don't have kids, you don't have a house. You should just take small risks very often. And you'll often find there was no risk to begin with. So for the podcast, I already had a camera. I could get a microphone from the university stores. I could rent that out as part of my course. And instead of waiting to get guests on, I just recorded a solo episode straight away. Did that for the first 5 episodes. That gave me momentum. Then I started getting guests on my show. And now I have 50,000 monthly listeners on YouTube. But it all started with an idea, which I implemented super quickly because I knew the last time I thought about that idea, I put it off for a year. This time when I got that hit of dopamine, that hit of inspiration, I took action super fast, started doing solo episodes, and then built up from there. It's always better to start your plan, even if it's a small step. Just make a small step and then course correct along the way. The problem that I have as a former deferrer, and the problem that you probably have as well, is you create these plans and you think what the plan's going to do is make it super simple and easy for you to implement. You can just take a step-by-step action list. But what our brains end up doing is overcomplicating it, and we get overwhelmed, and it makes the mountain, it makes it a molehill, a mountain out of a molehill, basically. So if when I first started the podcast or wanted to start my own YouTube channel, made a 10-page step-by-step checklist of what I had to do, buy the camera, record this video, record that video, contact that person, find this room, all of that, I wouldn't have started because it would have been too overwhelming. It would have taken too much activation energy and mental energy for me to begin. Whereas if you just say, okay, I'm going to write 3 bullet points down. This is what I'm going to talk about. Let me just do it now. I'll take 5 minutes to set up the camera, 5 minutes to script the video, start talking to the camera, do that every day. If you do something every day for a year and stick with it, you'll get results. A year later, a month later, you've got 1,000 subscribers, you've got 10,000 subscribers, one of your videos gone viral. That's all it takes. When I first started the podcast, I didn't know how to get guests on the show. I didn't know how to use AI software to improve the audio. I didn't know how to reach out and email guests. I learned that as I was recording the show. Imagine if I was a deferrer and flipped it the other way around, where I had to learn how to color grade, how to fix the audio, what software to use, how to contact guests via email effectively, how to repurpose them and turn them into short social media clips. Before I actually started recording, I would have got too overwhelmed, too stressed out, and I would have quit my dream of becoming a podcaster. So if you want to take one thing from this segment of the podcast, it is to stop being a deferrer. If you have an idea, just take action straight away. If you want to start a pottery business or you want to become a pottery content creator, buy some equipment that will allow you to start making pottery. Or if you have the equipment, tomorrow, or actually now after this podcast, or as you're listening to this podcast, record yourself making pottery if you already know how to do that, and then post it on social media. Instead of coming up with this, 28-day content plan or this 6-month content plan, and I'm going to do this that day, that the other day, step by step, 100 steps. You just get the camera, set it up, record a video of you creating the pottery or whatever you're going to create, and then post it on social media, and then repeat that. And as you repeat that, you'll get better. You'll start adding some more things, removing some other things, automating a few other things. And then in a month or 3, you're going to be a pro pottery content creator. That's just as an example. But say you wanted to, travel across Europe or go, backpacking across Europe. What would you do? You would go onto AI and you'd start looking at the prices or the most effective way to travel through Europe. So instead of flying, maybe you'll take the train and go interrailing, because you can pay, I don't know how much it is, let's just say like 100 quid or 500 pound to travel through Europe on a train, and that ticket gives you a certain amount of stops, and you buy that ticket. Instead of planning the entire trip, you just buy the ticket and then start planning once you've done it, because you've already put some effort and some resources into the idea. Now you have to implement it. It's such a good way to take action rather than trying to plan the entire thing and then end up not doing it. And I'm really hitting this deferrer versus outlier, topic, because I was such a deferrer when I was younger. I'd come up with all these plans to start a YouTube channel, start these weekly videos, post every day on social media, start this business, go to the gym, or whatever. And the big mistake I made was planning it. If I wanted to go to the gym, I should have just bought a membership, because I've put some of my money into that. I feel like if I don't go to the gym, I've wasted my money. Instead of coming up with this content plan, I should have just recorded a video and posted it onto the internet, and then done that again the next day, and then the next day, and then the next day. And then over time, I would have slowly figured out what I wanted to do. This is the fundamental difference between the deferrers and the outliers. The deferrers have a plan or have an idea and then overplan and then get paralysis by analysis and never take action. The outliers have an idea, think what's the smallest action they can take to start that idea, and then they just do that. And then they build up from that. That's the fundamental difference. And do you want to be a deferrer, or do you want to be an outlier? Because if you just start with a small action, you're ahead of 99.9% of people, because 99.9% of people defer, procrastinate, and say they're going to write the book next year, and then they never write the book. Compare that to the outlier who thinks of writing a book, writes the first paragraph and writes the first chapter on the first page, and then continues to do that, and then figures out the rest of the story as they're writing it. That person is going to become the best-selling author, because they actually took action, versus the person who thought of it, told everyone that they're going to become an author, told everyone that they've planned the entire book, and then never write it to begin with. So take a small action when you have an idea and plan as you go along. The best plan is action, and the only way to become an outlier is to take action, my friends. Okay, to close this section off, it's the reason why I'm talking about this so much is because not just because I used to be a deferrer, but because so many of the people I'm talking to at the moment are such deferrers. Talking to my friends and telling them about the podcast and telling them about me creating content, because it's something I'm generally passionate about and they're curious to know about it, like who I'm getting on and stuff. And I can't help but be passionate about it, and they obviously get inspiration from that. And they also have in the back of their minds, oh yeah, I want to do that as well, because they'll be like, oh yeah, you're giving me loads of ideas, man. Yeah, no, I want to do something similar. Or yeah, I want to start posting on social media. It doesn't have to be a podcast or whatever, but they feel inspired, or they say they feel inspired to do some sort of content creation when we are talking about my show. And then I'll be like, well, why haven't you started it? And they'll come up with these deferrer limiting beliefs that we've all had, and you probably have right now. Like, I'm not, advanced enough. Like, say you want to be a fitness content creator. Oh, no, I need, give me a year and I'll get bigger. Like, one of my good mates said that to me, and I was like, come on, man, like, you're already in good shape. think about 15-year-old you who's super skinny, doesn't know how to go to the gym. If they saw your physique, they'd be so amazed and they'd want to know exactly how to do that. I think a lot of the problems people have who want to start creating content is they think they have to be some expert, they have to be some genius, or they have to be like 50 years old and know everything about everything, but that's not the case. Let's take fitness for an example. As an example, if you're in, pretty good shape, you've been going to the gym for 2 years, you've put on some muscle, but you're not like bodybuilder size. You're not like, like Arnold Schwarzenegger or like Sam Sulek or Chris Bumstead size. But you watch that kind of content, you'll think, oh no, I'm not big enough and muscular enough to start any fitness content because I'm not in bodybuilder shape. But you forget that 5 years ago, you would have done anything to be the shape that you currently are. And this is the fundamental problem. Our target audience is usually our younger self. But because we watch content from more advanced people, like more intelligent or more wise or, stronger or better looking or more like muscular people, we forget that we've actually made so much progress in the last 5 years, and we can share that progress with our 15-year-old self. Like, I'm not targeting people older than me. I'm not targeting people my age for these wake up with her or wake up with WH episodes. I'm targeting 15, 16-year-old Jacob, 14-year-old Jacob who was skinny, anxious, scared in front of camera, scared with girls, like just a loser. I'm targeting that guy. I'm not targeting 20-year-old me. I'm not targeting 32-year-old me. So if you're like watching this and you're disagreeing with what I'm saying, or you think I'm too young, click off the video, because this is for younger me. This is for the younger version of me who wouldn't be able to know or do any of the things that I've done and that I'm talking about. So when you're first creating content, when you're first starting your own show, remember that you're targeting your younger self. And let's be real, you should be like 10 times better than yourself from 5 years ago, 5 times better than yourself from 5 years ago as a minimum. And you have younger you to teach. So if you are saying to me or to your friends or your family, oh no, I want to start content, but give me a year, then I'll do it because I'll be more muscular, or I'll be more smart, or I'll have more money. Ignore that limiting belief, destroy that limiting belief, start creating content for your younger self, for you 5 years ago. What did he struggle with? What did he need? What did he wish to become? And how have you become that? What have you done to fulfill your younger self's desires? Just teach that. It's that simple. And I think people have these limiting deferring beliefs, and they're deferrers because they say they want to do these things, but they don't want to put the effort in, and it's easier for them to defer it than it is to take action from it. It's easy to say all these things that they want to do and not take action than it is to just shut up and take action. And also it's safer. This is the thing as well. It's also safer. People are saying to me, oh, I want to start a YouTube channel. I want to create content, but, give me a year or two when I'm this and that and when I'm more confident. But it's like, bro, you're not going to be confident if you don't start. What in the next year or two is going to change for you to suddenly become confident in front of the camera, if you're not practicing speaking in front of the camera, if you're not practicing speaking on YouTube or posting your work onto YouTube? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. The only way to become more confident and to stop being a deferrer, like I said, is to take action. So if you want to create content and you want to create a podcast, or you want to start sharing your story, don't wait until a year when you think you're going to be more suddenly like magically more confident. Start now. Start teaching your younger self things. Start practicing. I gave this analogy to my mate who was being a deferrer and saying, give me a year before I start making fitness content. And I fucking love this guy. If you're watching this, I love you, bro. Just start fucking making content. But I'm going to have to use you as an example because it's a classic deferrer example. He was like, give me a year, then I'll start making the fitness content because I'll be bigger. Or like, and then he started asking me like, how do I get confident in front of camera and stuff like that? And I gave him a gym analogy because it's easy to understand. Imagine if you wanted to bench press, 100 kilograms, for example, and you just started going to the gym. You wouldn't not go to the gym for a year. and then suddenly try and lift 100 kilograms, what would you do? You'd go to the gym as much as possible and practice bench pressing as much as possible. You'd slowly increase the weight until you got up to 100 kilograms, and then you'd lift it. It's the same with creating a YouTube channel or creating a podcast. You can't just magically in a year suddenly be super smart, super engaging, super confident, super charismatic in front of camera, know exactly how to post and record. It's not how it works. You have to start off terrible. You have to suck. The people who can suck at something for 100 days in a row, 365 days in a row, are the ones who succeed, because everyone else is too scared to do that. They defer it and they give up before they reach that milestone. So they're never able to start the content. They're never able to bench the 100 kilograms. But they think for some reason in a year, they're going to be able to do it. But that's just a defense mechanism in your brain because you're scared to start your dreams. You think people are going to judge you and you think you're not credible enough. But those are all limiting beliefs. And if you just start a week or two later after posting every day, or, working on whatever you want to work on, like the podcast or the content creation every single day, you're going to be 100 times more confident than you would be if you deferred it for a year and gained 5 kilograms more muscle or read 5 more books. Bro, just start. You're smarter than your younger self, so you have things to teach to your younger self. That's your target audience. Start creating content for your younger self. Stop deferring, and in a year or two, you'll be making money from posting content on YouTube. I started the podcast 4 months ago and I'm already monetized on YouTube because I've been working on it every day and I stopped deferring. And then people ask me how I did it or how I'm able to get all these guests on the shows, because I just realized I was going to suck and realized I just have to put as many reps in as possible to get stronger at this thing. That's all it takes. Just consistent reps, iterations, and effort. So stop deferring, idiot. Good coffee. Yeah, so we were meant to record outside. I think it's stopped raining now. Might be raining a bit lightly. But usually these episodes are going to be outside. But because I live in Cornwall and it rains every day, especially in winter, and it's starting to become winter right now, we're probably going to have to do some inside, but that's okay. The premise is still the same. I'm teaching my younger self lessons that I wish I knew at that age, and I'm also reminding myself of lessons because often we don't need to relearn, we just need reminding. So stop being a deferrer and start taking some real, genuine action. And like I said, I recommend reading the 4-Hour Work Week, right? But I read it a year or two ago, and I think once you find like an absolutely amazing book, you should just keep rereading that every few months. Because like I just said earlier, we often don't need to relearn things, we just need to be reminded of things. And I definitely needed to be reminded of the lessons in the 4-Hour Work Week. For the past, couple of weeks, since I've been monetized on YouTube, really, I got that like spark of dopamine, and I've just been like a rat in a lab, like trying to get maximum views, do this on the reels, like change the first 2 seconds of the reels, or change the thumbnails on an old video that's performing so I can get some more views and get more money on YouTube. And I realized I was spending like way too much time on the non-essential tasks. And because of that, because I was like frying my brain doing these non-essential tasks, I started falling slightly behind on making new content, posting new podcast episodes, which is the most important tasks for me and my online content business. By the way, I was talking about being a deferrer and like starting your own podcast and stuff. My second channel has literally a gold mine, a whole library where I share my secrets of how I went from 0 subscribers to Europe's fastest growing under 21 podcaster, and being able to get monetized and secure my dream guests, like you've probably seen on this channel. So if you want tips on how to start your own podcast or start your own YouTube channel, check out my second channel. It's like link in this channel description. Anyway, so I was spending way too much time doing non-essential tasks, changing little things that weren't really moving the needle forward. And I thought I was being like super productive. I was just like waking up at 6 a.m. like I usually do, and then basically working the entire day until like 6 p.m. I was doing like 10-hour days the past few weeks. I'd go to the gym in the evening, then I'd go to the sauna straight afterwards rather than going to the gym earlier in the day and then relaxing in the sauna later. So I'd get home and it'd be like 10 p.m. or 9 p.m. and I hadn't even eaten. So I'd spend an hour cooking, then I'd sleep on a full stomach, which would mess up my sleep. So it just wasn't good, right? And I thought I had to be doing this to get the numbers I desired or to, grow the show and things like that. But, I realized like I was missing out on the things that really would grow the show, like posting new content and recording new content. Like realistically, they're the two things that I need to do to continue this. And I stopped doing that because I was trying to optimize like short form content and get more views and get more followers. But I started rereading the 4-Hour Work Week and remembered the 80-20 principle, like just do the few tasks that get you 80% of your desired results, and also limit your work time to, like 2 hours a day or 1 hour a day or even 4 hours a week. And that may sound really daunting, and it is, but what I've noticed is there's only a handful of tasks that actually get you the result that you need. You don't need to be checking your emails every single day and replying to every single comment or changing your thumbnail or tweaking your reels and adding an image at the start of the hook of your reel, and that makes you end up having to spend 2 extra hours repurposing your content because you don't have someone to do that yet, and that eats into your recording time and it just spirals out of control. You don't need to do all of these unnecessary tasks. Just focus on recording the content, focus on posting the content, and repeat that. And then yesterday I did the opposite of overworking and stuff. I woke up at 6 a.m. and you've probably noticed if you've watched my morning reflection vlogs, I've been walking when I've been waking up. So instead of getting to work straight away, I'll wake up at 6 a.m., go on like a 45-minute walk or like a half an hour walk and like vlog it and just like talk about what I'm thinking about, what I'm feeling about, how I'm feeling. And then that's content, that's recording content. So basically tick, that's one of the most effective tasks I can do. So it's a win-win. Then I'll get back home and have a coffee, read for 20 minutes, and then like kind of meditate for 20 minutes. I basically just close my eyes and think or let my thoughts, unravel. And outside as well, especially when it's not raining, so I can listen to the sounds of nature and stuff. And then I will get on with the most effective task, the task that's going to get me the most results. But I limit it to 2 hours. So I set a 2-hour timer on, and yesterday it was respond to the essential emails. So people that I've invited to come onto the podcast that have, said yes or probably have said yes, schedule them in on my calendar for future episodes. And then, am I in focus? I really feel like I'm like out of focus right now, guys. Sorry if I'm like slightly blurry. This lens only does manual focus, so it's like really like it's not automatic focus, so it's really hard to like sit still without being blurry, because if I start moving around I'll be blurry. But yeah, so I emailed the people to come onto the show. I scheduled my free solo videos for my second channel because I recorded them the day before, and then I think I maybe repurposed a few videos, like did some other like small essential tasks, and that took me about 2 hours. And then I was done by 11 a.m. And then I was just sat there like, damn, what do I do the rest of my time? I was just like, okay. And then I also had a podcast later that day at 3 p.m, but that doesn't feel like work, especially when it's like me recording to the camera or talking to a guest. Like I've chosen that time and I don't count that as work. Like recording the guest episodes, it's just so fun. It's like so fun. So I could have done other tasks, right? Don't get me wrong. I have a whole list of, tasks, but they're not essential. They're not going to move the ball super forward. And if I did them, it would be rushed. It would make me more stressed, and it wouldn't be effective because I wouldn't be performing to the highest standard. So I've really tried to limit what I do and how much time I give for that. And what that does is, by setting a timer for 2 hours, it means whatever the task is that I have to do it within 2 hours. And I don't rush it. I just do the essential things, or I try to do the essential things, instead of tweaking this and that and just like coming up with 100 different titles for the video. I'll just write down 3 titles, choose the best one, or ask ChatGPT what the best one is, write that down, boom, 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 scheduled. Whereas before, if I don't have a timer on, I might spend an extra 20 minutes on coming up with a title for that one video, then another 20 minutes on the next video, and another 20 minutes on the next video. But I think I'm being productive, but then that's an hour removed from doing another essential task, or moving on to the next thing, or going out into nature, or going to the gym earlier. So I was kind of like a bit like, okay, what do I do the rest of my day now? Like I hadn't gone to the gym, so I went on a walk to collect something, went to the gym, and then it was still like 4 p.m. No, it might have been 3 p.m. I might have finished the gym. So normally I've been going to the gym at like 7 a.m. or 6 p.m. But I finished the gym and it was like 3:30 p.m. So I was like, okay, I'll go to the sauna. Then I went to the sauna and wasn't rushed, wasn't late in the day, didn't need to cook dinner afterwards. And then I met someone in the sauna who's a filmmaker and an editor, and he lives locally, and he might potentially start helping me out with editing and filming the podcasts. It's like, imagine if I didn't go to the sauna because it wasn't productive or whatever, even though it is, because it's so good for your health and it's so good to socialize. Socialization is one of the best things for your health. If you're lonely, it's worse for you than smoking and bad diet and bad sleep. So the sauna is so good. It's such an 80-20 like habit. Anyway, imagine if I didn't go to the sauna because I didn't think it was productive. I wouldn't have met that guy who might end up becoming my editor and filmmaker and help me grow the channel and the show, because I would have just been sat in front of my laptop. Like once you get after 2 hours of solid work, like deep work, or even maybe 3 or 4 hours, 4 hours you're pushing it, especially if it's like 4 hours in a row, you're not enjoying it. Your cortisol's way higher. You think you're enjoying it because you're just got into such a habit of doing it, so you're just numb. Your brain's just numb. Your brain's fried. You're like super just fatigued, and you're spending way less. You're doing way less in way more time. Your productivity has crashed through the roof. Whereas if you just do the 1 or 2 most important tasks for the day, that takes 1, 2 or 3 hours maximum. You set a timer, you get it done. Then for the rest of the day, you go and exercise, you go on a run, you go to the gym, you go walk in nature where you can socialize, come up with new ideas, regulate your emotions and your body, go to the sauna, do some more socializing, and that's also cardio and helps you recover, think of new ideas because you're giving your brain space to think and reset. And then in the evening, you go out with your friends, or you go to a yoga class, or you take your girl out for dinner. You're going to be way more effective and productive the next day. You're going to have way more energy to do the most important task the next day. You're going to come up with way more ideas, and you're going to have a way better life. I am example A of getting into the trap of working for 10 hours a day, like working. I put that in quotations because I'm just staring. I might just be staring at my laptop screen for 10 hours a day. 2 hours of that is actual productive work that moves me closer to my goals. But what is the consequence of that? If you just spend 10 hours a day in front of your laptop, your fitness gets worse because you're rushing your gym session and you're doing it at a suboptimal time. Your diet gets worse because you're now buying cheap ready meals because you don't have enough time to cook or go out. Your relationships get worse because you're not spending enough time with your friends, family, and partner. Your sleep gets worse because you're more stressed and you're just like, your brain just can't switch off. and you just stop socializing, and you don't spend any time in nature or let your brain rest, and therefore your business gets worse because you don't give your space to sit back and come up with new ideas, and you end up making bad decisions because you're in a bad state of mind. So if you're in that trap as well of thinking you have to spend 12 hours a day working, try and do the work you need to do, the 2 or 3 things that'll get you the most results. Like if you're a podcast or content creator, that's recording content, posting content, and maybe getting guests to come onto the show by emailing them. That's it. Try and just do those things. And then for the rest of your day, read some books so you can learn new things to talk about for your business and for your content. Journal so you can increase the clarity of your thoughts and speak better in front of camera and make better decisions. Socialize so you have more stories to tell on your show or on your podcast, or just to feel better because you're socializing and you're making new friends, or you're approaching a girl or a partner or a potential partner or someone that you find interesting. Go to the sauna, go to the gym, improve your health, spend time with family and friends, For content creation and for podcasting, you don't need to spend 14 hours a day on it. It's like a couple hour a day thing. The rest of your time should be spent not being obviously a degenerate and going out drinking and smoking and like doing drugs and stuff, but it should be spent on other things that will improve your life and your health. And the people who do that stay in the game longer because they don't get burnt out. It's as simple as that. So if you fall into like the busy trap, like I have many times and I have the past few weeks, highly recommend reading the 4-Hour Work Week. Set a 2-hour timer, and Parkinson's law is work expands the time allocated to it. So if you give yourself 2 hours to do the most important tasks, it will take you probably about 2 hours to do the most important task. And you should be able to do it in that time and then enjoy the rest of your day. It's as simple as that. Ooh, is it still raining outside? I think it stopped raining outside, which is annoying because I would have loved to do this episode outside. But yeah, I'm really enjoying these solo episodes, and I'm going to keep trying to, be effective. Just record the guest episodes, record the second channel episodes, and record these solo episodes, and kind of not forget about everything else. Like I still want to repurpose it into short form content to attract new eyeballs to the show, but I don't need to be trying to do emails, recording, repurposing, scheduling, editing all in one day, right? And when I do it, it should only take me like 2 hours a day, maximum, really. Maybe sometimes 3 or 4, but not very often. Good coffee. So yeah. What else is going on in my universe? I'm almost 21, which is pretty cool. I'm not very sentimental with age stuff. I kind of try and live day by day. I think if you have high agency and you have a high internal scorecard and internal drive, external things like, getting to this age or doing this thing, or I don't know, just external stuff isn't as important. And I've, distracting things as well. Yeah. But 21's pretty cool. I do forget how young I am sometimes. Like when I'm in the sauna or I'm in the gym and I'm like speaking to a new group of people or made new friends, they're 9 times out of 10, they're older than me, and we'll just be chatting and it's like I'm talking to someone my age, and then they'll be like, oh, how old are you again? I'm like 20. And they're like, what? You're so young. And it just doesn't feel like that. And I think that's one of the good things about being into self-improvement and working on your body, working on your mind, working on trying to build your wealth, is you end up seeming more mature than your age may show or your age may indicate. And that's a really good thing, because I think once you get to like 19 or 20, when you start speaking to 30-year-olds, there's not much of a difference. Like, you start becoming a bit of an adult. You're not like when you're a teen, like when you're 15, 16, 17, maybe even 18, when you're talking to a person who's older than you, it still feels evident. There's still that gap. There's still that almost like, I don't know, like tension or different relationship. But once you become independent, you leave your hometown or you go to university or you move countries and you start going out into the real world and speaking to people who are older than you, it doesn't actually feel like that if you're mature and you're into self-improvement. So don't be shy to speak to people. Like, I have a mate in the sauna and he's 32. He's 12 years older than me. Doesn't feel like it though. And it is a bit of a flex as well, because it's like, like, I'm not a kid. I mean, you're naive. You still got loads to learn. But remember, there's no such thing as adults as well. Like, what I've realized speaking to people who are a decade older than me or like 5 decades older than me, it's like most people are normies and they have no idea what they're doing with their life. Even if they are, dialed in or they have a business, it's like most people are just winging it. And that should be freeing for you, because it shows you can start whatever you want to do now, and it's okay to not have any idea of how to do it or whether it's going to work or not, because no one knows if it's going to work or not. Even if they're super successful and they have a really good business or they have a really good channel on social media, they still have things that they're uncertain about. It's really good to realize there's no such thing as adults. You're in control of your life. Don't let other people's opinions stop you from doing things, because they have what you want? If they don't have what you want, don't listen. And something that I try to do, which I don't always do, and I always remind myself to do it and get annoyed at myself when I don't do it, is if you have an idea, like I said about the deferrer and outlier thing, start it and don't talk to anyone about it. And I'm not going to repeat kind of what I was talking about earlier, where it's like, if you talk about it, you get the dopamine response and you get rewarded, so you don't take action. This is slightly different. What do I mean by that? So if you have an idea to start the YouTube channel or, get a Whoop strap, say you want to spend, 200, 300 pounds on getting a Whoop strap, it's so tempting to tell your friends or tell your mum, tell your parents or tell your girlfriend about it. But a lot of the time, normal people will, have something to say just naturally. If they don't understand it or they don't agree with it, they're gonna, if they're close to you, or even if they're not close to you, they're gonna say something that they think, and it might put you off from doing it. And that's happened a few times with me. I've had this idea, which is an even higher risk, and I'll tell someone I'm close to about it, and then they'll be a deferrer and not criticize it, but, question it and be like, oh, are you sure that's going to work? I don't know if that's a good idea. And then being young, like me a few years ago, or even me now, if I'm not careful, I'll be like, oh, maybe they're right. Maybe I should listen to that. And then you don't end up doing it. But the problem is, right, if you did it, it's not going to end the world and it's not going to end your life. Example, if you want to get a Whoop strap, it costs 200 to 300 quid for the year. And I want to get one, right? And I know if I tell people about it I'm close to, and I tell them how much the price is, they might be like skeptical. That's the good word. They might be cynical and skeptical about it. And that might put me off doing it. Whereas if I just did it and got the Whoop strap, they can't say anything about it. And I know it's a good decision because I thought about it and I'm not an idiot. Like, you need to trust yourself. This is the thing. You need to trust your own judgment, trust your own gut, especially if you've been into self-improvement and you're not like most people and you're not impulsive and you don't make stupid decisions often, like you don't do drugs or you don't get yourself into debt or you don't gamble. Like, if you're a gambler or if you're a degenerate, this advice isn't for you. But if you're watching this, you're probably slightly more advanced than that and you have decent judgment. So if you think about starting this business or starting this YouTube channel or buying that pair of shoes or buying that mattress or buying that Whoop strap or buying that microphone, just do it. Because if you don't buy it straight away and take action super quickly and you tell your parents about it, they're going to put you off from doing it because they're naturally just critical and a bit pessimistic because they don't understand. It's coming from a good place, don't get me wrong, but they don't understand you. You understand yourself better. You have good intuition. Take the action. For example, if you just start going to the gym and you know a great way to get a lot of protein in and be healthy is to eat 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 eggs. For some reason, there's like this like anti-egg propaganda that our parents' generation grew up with. And if you tell them that you're going to eat 4 eggs, they're going to be like, oh, no, you can't do that. No, you're not allowed to do that. It's really high in cholesterol, even though they're literally drinking beer and wine and eating like crap food and like processed bread every single day, which is like going to clog their arteries way more than eggs, which have been around for like fucking millions of years and we've eaten for millions of years, and it has like so many amino acids and nutrients in. Anyway, yeah, if you tell your parents you're going to eat 4 eggs a day instead of 2, they'll like try and ban it from you. They won't tell, like they'll try and make you not do it, or they'll like punish you for doing it. They'll criticize you for doing it. Imagine if you just started eating 4 eggs, you just started cooking 4 eggs every morning and you didn't tell them. By the time they realize you're doing that, you've already got into the habit of doing it. You're already seeing some results. You haven't died yet. So, you know what I mean? And you just say, well, I've done my research. It's healthy. I want to put on muscle. I'm going to keep doing that. You're going to be way more likely to continue to take action and keep eating those eggs every day versus if you ask for permission to eat eggs. So the fundamental lesson here is ask for forgiveness, not permission. Don't even ask for forgiveness. Just pretend to ask for forgiveness. So instead of asking permission to buy the health strap for £200, even though you have the money, you know it's a good investment. If you want to eat 4 eggs a day, if you want to go on that solo trip and you can afford it and you're old enough to do it, don't ask for permission. Buy the health strap, eat the eggs every day, buy the plane ticket, then tell everyone around you after it. Because if you do it the other way around, you give in to the deferrers who will criticize you and be pessimistic and tell you every reason why that won't work, because that's how most humans work, and it has nothing to do with you, and it's just a reflection of their self-esteem and their values which don't align with yours. You have good judgment. You are a smart young person. You have good intuition. You don't make rash decisions. You don't, do drugs. You don't gamble. You don't waste all your savings. You're genuinely invested in your health and improving yourself and getting wealthier and smarter. So whatever decision you make that aligns with your goals, make those decisions, tell everyone about it afterwards. You're not in school. Even if you are in school, you're not in school. Your teachers don't own you. Your parents don't own you. No one owns you. No one knows you. No one owes you anything. You're your own boss. Nobody's thinking about you. Nobody cares about you. Make small decisions and actions fast. Tell people about it after you've done it, rather than the other way around. That's something that has taken me so long to learn, and I have to keep reminding myself to do it, because every time I think of this new idea or this new plan, or I want to buy this new thing, people around me will naturally tell me every reason why it won't work, because they are deferrers and they are zero sum, and most people are scared. Most people are fearful. Most people are very cynical. Humans have such a negativity bias, because the people who saw or heard the rustling in the bushes in caveman times and ran away because it might be a tiger, versus the overly optimistic caveman who probably thought it was a rabbit. The negative ones who ran away survived, even if it wasn't a tiger. The overly optimistic caveman who heard the rustling in the bushes, thought it was a rabbit, and then it ended up being a tiger, gets removed from the gene pool. So we're descendants of overly negative people. But if you're that outlier who has a positive mindset, has good judgment, and wants to take action, and maybe you're quite young or you're not financially free yet, you just have to make decisions in private, be your own judge, be your own decision maker, make the decision, tell people about it afterwards. If you mess up, say sorry or just learn from it and repeat, rather than asking people around you for advice, because if they don't have what you want, don't listen to them. Do not listen to them. So that's a reminder to myself and advice for you that you should definitely start taking, because if I listened to everyone around me, I wouldn't be making content. I wouldn't be recording a podcast. I probably wouldn't be in Cornwall. I wouldn't have dreams to become a successful content creator and entrepreneur who travels the world and interviews my heroes. I wouldn't be doing those things. I would be stuck in a 9-to-5 office job. I wouldn't be going to the gym. I wouldn't be wearing a vest, talking to a camera. You're gonna fucking die, man. Like, this is the thing. Like, it's so funny. It's so stupid. Like, I'm gonna look back at this in 10 years and not cringe. I mean, I might cringe, but that shows I've grown. Because older me will be more advanced and it will be agreeing with what I say, but the packaging might be slightly different, or my speaking skills might be slightly different, so you might cringe at that. But like, you're gonna fucking die. Like, you're going to die. I took my girl to a nice restaurant for our birthday because we're born the same day in the same year. It's crazy. But I wanted to take her to a restaurant and pay for both of us, because I don't usually do that, because I've been really tight with money because I'm a student and stuff. But I was like, no, I want to do this. This will be fun. This was yesterday where I did the 2-hour work day and then had loads more time to spend with everyone and spend on my health and come up with new ideas for things and just relax and recharge and be more effective, right? So we walked to the restaurant. We live by the sea. We have loads of beaches near us, which is so nice, especially for the UK and Cornwall. It's the nicest place in England. Most seas in England are brown. I'm from Kent, so the North Sea is the sea that I have around me. I go to the beach once a year because the sea is just brown, sewage filled, disgusting. But in Cornwall, you've got the Atlantic Ocean. It's nice, but it was super stormy. It was super rainy, and we're gonna have to go across the coastal path to get to this fancy seafood restaurant, right? And we had to take this divergent route through housing blocks and stuff, and it took us through a graveyard. And we also walked through the graveyard on the way back when it was dusk and stuff. And I used to be scared of walking through graveyards, not because I thought some ghost was going to come and spook me out, out of the grave or something. It was because I was scared of death and scared of facing the reality that I might just not exist anymore. Damien Hirst had this really famous piece of artwork, and it was a shark, a real tiger shark or great white. I think it was a real great white shark floating in this liquid called formaldehyde, which preserves it. So it's in a tank, but it's floating. Real shark, dead, and I think sold for millions of pounds. Anyway, the title of Damien Hirst's floating shark or shark in formaldehyde is really, really good. It's the physical impossibility of death in the mind of someone living. I think that was paraphrased, but it was something along those lines. And it's actually impossible for us to comprehend die. It's actually impossible for us to truly comprehend being dead. But a good reframe around death is, we all know what it's like to have been dead before we were born. And I didn't worry about being alive before I was born, so why would I worry about being dead or alive now or after I'm alive? Yeah, why would I worry about being dead after I'm alive if I know what it was probably like to be dead before I was born? It's so interesting thinking about World War II, thinking about the medieval times, thinking about even the 1990s. When my parents were born, they were dating each other. They were going, living in London, going to, raves. Well, my dad did, my mum didn't. But, my mum living in Brooklyn in the 1990s. And that, as far as I'm aware, that stuff actually happened, but I didn't exist. it's so weird to think that stuff has happened and we haven't exist. Unless we're in some massive simulation right now and everything I'm doing right now is actually not real and it's a one-player game, and if you're watching this and you're real, you're probably thinking the same about yourself, so it's probably not true, but you never know. Like, if everything has actually happened and everyone exists and it's not a one-player simulation, stuff has happened that's been recorded on TV, been recorded in books, been recorded on the radio that we can consume, and those things happened and we didn't exist, and we have no feeling of what that was. You know, for example, World War II. World War II happened. You know, Germans were close to invading Britain. If Britain lost the Battle of Britain, which was in the sky, if Germany were able to dominate Britain in the air and beat them in the sky, they would have launched Operation Sea Lion, which would have meant Germans invading the shores, I think in like Sussex, maybe in Kent as well, like doing what we did to them on D-Day basically in 1944, but they would have done this in like 1940. That stuff actually happened. There would have been a point in time when, where I was standing in Kent on the White Cliffs of Dover, looking over to France, which was 26 miles away, which I could see with my own eyes, 80 years before, the Nazis would have been there. And they could have invaded where I was standing, my country, any day. You just would have never known. That actually happened. There's pillboxes where they'd have the anti-aircraft guns. There's, you know, bomb craters where I'm from in southeast England, in Kent. All of this stuff actually happened as far as I'm aware, and I have zero comprehension that it did. It's just imagination in my mind because I didn't exist. But did I feel anxious when that was happening? Did I feel anxious before I was born? No, because I wasn't born. I was technically dead. You know, as far as the evidence we have, we were dead before we were alive, and we didn't worry about it. And walking in the graveyard now, now I've grown up a bit, you know, I used to be really scared of death, and I'm sure if you put me in a near-death situation, I'd be terrified. And if I really had to think about dying, I probably would get nervous. But I remember when I was younger, I would just put it off. I wouldn't think about it. I would not think about death because I'd get anxious. Like the times I felt the most anxious is when I was younger, or even like a year or two ago, is when I was lying in bed, alone with my thoughts, in the dark, and I suddenly remembered that I was going to die. And I'd get this pit of anxiety in my stomach, and it was horrible. And I remember one time a few years ago when I was in bed and it was like quite late because I was not dialed in. I was a bit of a like semi-degenerate, just wasn't like well with my sleep. Didn't have much going for me. Didn't have many goals. Was consuming content on social media like too much, like watching YouTube before bed and just ruining my sleep like that. I remember trying to go to sleep, and then it just hitting me like, oh, you're going to die, motherfucker. You're going to die. And because I put it off so many times in my brain, like I wouldn't let myself think about death because I was too scared of it. It just hit me and I just couldn't sleep. And I'm normally a really good sleeper, and I normally don't like worry about a lot of things other than when I had social anxiety when I was younger, like mild social anxiety. And I just couldn't sleep. And then the only way I stopped thinking about it was going onto YouTube and like watching a video from KSI. And looking back, I realized why deferrers, consumers, like normal people that just distract themselves with drugs, with alcohol, with porn, with brain rot content. It's like they're actually just distracting themselves from death, which may seem like a good tactic. Like I thought it was when I was in bed and I couldn't sleep because I remembered I was going to die, and it made me anxious. But it's again that analogy of short-term pain for long-term gain, or short-term gain for long-term pain. If you're distracting yourself from death by drinking, by like going out partying, by binge watching Netflix, or, you know, watching brain rot content or like gambling, stuff like that, you're distracting yourself in the short term, but in the long term, you end up wasting your life. And that makes death more scary. Whereas if you take the short-term pain of accepting death, remembering you're going to die, and remembering everyone else around you is going to die and going to be forgotten about in 3 generations, it hurts in the short term, you know, when you sometimes think about it. But then once you reframe it as, oh, most of these people that I'm scared of, most people whose opinions I'm scared of aren't going to show up to my funeral and don't actually think about me every single day and are not gonna exist and not even gonna speak in my funeral. It hurts for like a few minutes, but then in the long term you realize I've nothing to lose. Nobody's really judging me. I need to make the most out of my life because I've accepted that I'm probably gonna die and I might only have one shot at this life. So let me make the most out of this life. And then you end up chasing after your dreams, traveling the world, being with people you want to be around with, doing the habits you want to do, having the type of job that you want to have. And once you get to your deathbed, you have far fewer regrets because every day or every week you were doing the things that you wanted to do because from the get-go you realized that you were going to die, but so was everybody else, and the people and the life and the opinions and the worries that were stopping you from taking action and stopping you from becoming an outlier and keeping you as a deferrer completely vanished, because fear and death as fear is such a good motivator for you to pursue what you truly want to do, because all of these opinions, all of these fake scenarios in your head wash away when you realize you might only have one shot at this, and you better make the most of this life that you have, because you may never ever get another one, and you may never know when this life may be taken away from you. So that should be a motivator for you to stop deferring your dreams and start taking action and doing the things that you want to do. It could be as simple as, I want to go to the gym every morning at 6 a.m. Okay, I'm going to do that because, you know, if I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it. And then when I'm 85 or 120 and I'm on my deathbed, I'm going to regret not doing that. Or I want to move to Bali. I want to move to America. Well, let's start taking action to get you closer to that goal, because I know for sure when you're on your deathbed, you're going to regret not trying to do that. Or I want to become a professional podcaster where I interview my heroes and interview high performing people and help people improve themselves and help understand themselves and the world better. Okay, well, if we had one shot at this life and that's the thing that you want to do, there's no point putting it off, and there's no point thinking, oh, I'll do it in the next life and I'll be reincarnated into some new human being. No, it's better to make the most of what we have right now and every single day work towards the thing that you want to do that will stop you from having regrets on your deathbed. So that's my thought on death as a motivator. And if you're in the situation where you're scared of death, but you're also not doing the things that you want to do and being a deferrer because you're scared of the false, made-up, make-believe opinions that you've created in your imagination of other people who you think are gonna hate on you for doing the thing that you want to do, or you have these scenarios in your head where you think what you want to do, like starting a pottery business, will make you bankrupt and you'll fail at life. Remember, that's just your brain. That's just your monkey brain, your negativity bias brain. And 9 times out of 10, those things won't happen. If they do happen, at least you won't regret it on your deathbed, and you can learn from it and keep going and improve. As long as you don't stop, you cannot fail. So, food of thought for you and for me, obviously, because a lot of this is reminders to myself and advice for younger me. But think about death. Remember, you're going to die. that will free you because you end up doing the things that you genuinely want to do and ignore the opinions of other people who are going to die and not show up to your funeral. So remember you're going to die and let that free you to take the actions that you want to take. So let's get on to some nature updates. So it is September right now, and it is very, very autumnal. You know, it's way damper now. The good thing about the UK is it's super seasonal, but that's also a bad thing as well. So, you know, you could be in a tropical climate where it's like 27 degrees all year round, like Bali, and, you know, you have the rainy seasons, you have your storms, but there's not too much change. But if you're in the northern or deep southern hemisphere and you're quite far up, you have such fluctuations in daylight. So when it's the longest day of the year, you get like a couple hours of nighttime. But then when it's the shortest day of the year, you get, you know, a few hours of sunlight and the rest is darkness. It's so extreme, which has its downsides. Like, it makes you a bit bipolar. You can get seasonal depression, and it can really affect your mood and your sleep and your regulation. But there is something nice about the changing of seasons. You know, going from summer where everything's relaxing, everything feels really long and just kind of not boring, but pretty, you know, like content. You know, summer's content in the UK a lot of the time. There's a lot of daylight, it's warm, you can go outside and stuff. And then like this year, it hit September and suddenly the wind picked up, the waves got bigger in Cornwall, it started raining more. I'm seeing loads of leaves on the floor already, like super orange leaves. Spiders starting to come out, so it's spider season. A lot of basically every single bird that migrated to the UK for spring has gone back down south to, you know, Africa, to the Mediterranean. And a lot of things die at the end of summer and the start of autumn, but a lot of things come as a consequence and come to life. So although we're losing all the birds, you know, the swallows, the swifts, the warblers, we're getting the winter flocks of geese. You know, the geese are going to start coming down from Lapland and northern Russia and from Svalbard in the Arctic to come down here for the warm winter and to feed, which is awesome. So in Cornwall, there's going to be a lot of geese coming about, some Canada geese, maybe some grey lag geese, pink-footed geese. And then we're going to get the thrushes from Lapland, from northern Russia. So we're going to get the fieldfares and the redwings. And we're going to also get the like northern European blackbirds and robins and song thrushes. And they're always much shyer than the UK blackbirds, robins and thrushes, because the ones in the UK are obviously used to humans because we have a high population density. But the blackbirds that come from Scandinavia and northern Russia, they're like maybe see one person in their life because it's just so sparsely populated. So they get like, they're just way more shy. You can tell that they're a migrant bird because they're just super shy. But it's really exciting. You know, you get the berries coming out, which the birds feed on. You get the rotting apples, which the fieldfares and redwings feed on in the frost. You know, you can go on autumn walks, and like the smell of the air in autumn and winter, you know, the smoky smell of wood fire and the I guess smoky smell of rotting wood and rotting leaves. It's just so like nice. It just gives me such a nice feeling. And also our dopamine increases very much, so very high. I think it's highest in autumn, naturally, as part of our yearly rhythm, because that makes us motivated. And in caveman times, we would be preparing for winter in autumn. So we need that spike of dopamine to make us motivated to gather resources. So you will actually probably feel quite good in autumn, and then winter hits and it's like way more depressing if you live in the UK. But you know, there's still some benefits of winter. It's cozy, but after Christmas it drags on quite a bit. But you also get some winter ducks coming down for the UK to the UK from northern Russia and places like that. So if you're, you know, a bit upset that autumn's here and summer's going, if you go out into nature, there's plenty to look out for. Not to forget all the mushrooms, all the fungi as well. You get the fly agarics coming out, the red and white toadstool mushrooms, the amethyst deceivers, the purple little mushrooms. You get all these cool mushrooms just exploding in the forest. I think summer in the forest sucks because all the birds have gone, they've stopped breeding, it's super quiet, and there's still leaves on the trees, but there's not much going on. Summer in mid-autumn is awesome because you get all the oranges, the yellows, the red colors, you get all the fungi coming out, you get all the nice smells, and you can go to a pub after a damp, wet walk and cozy up by the fire. It's so wholesome. It's such vibes. So as much as I want to leave the UK, because for a big reason is because of the lack of sunlight, the short days in winter, I still do love a lot of elements of those seasons. It's just I know I feel best in the sunshine, and when I have enough money, I'm going to be able to go on a trip to Scandinavia or come back to the UK, but go to a forest lodge in winter. So I'm not trying to just completely rule out winter. I don't think I'm ever going to be one of those people who never just avoid winter at all costs. So you'll get a lot of people in the UK who will come back to the UK for summer, for the summer months, but then once summer ends, they'll go to Australia because in the UK winter, it's Australia's summer. So that means they never have to face winter. And I'll probably go through seasons like that in my life, but I'll always want to take that 2-week or 1 month or 2-month winter trip to a forest cabin in Scandinavia in the woods, or to Scotland and stuff like that. But in terms of living situation and daily routine location, not travel location, I really don't want to live in a place that doesn't get a lot of sunshine. For example, south of France is seasonal. My girlfriend's from there, but they get a lot of sunlight in winter. They get 300 days of sunlight a year. So you can still be in a place that has seasons, but even in some places that has seasons, there's still more sunshine. I think the one problem with the UK is the lack of sunlight in the winter months, and even in the autumn, spring and summer months, especially in a place like Cornwall, where we're right in the Atlantic and we get all the clouds. So yeah, definitely will move out of the UK, and it's going to be funny looking back. I'm glad I grew up here. It's a developed country. Obviously free healthcare, lots good enough education. I don't like the education system and how it's set up to make us try and become normal deferrer factory workers. But I mean, I'm glad I got educated here. I still learned some stuff and still learned a lot of lessons and stuff. I'd rather grow up in a place like the UK and go through the education system there than go through the education system in Brazil, or not get any education at all, right? So, can't be too ungrateful for sure. But now I'm older and now I want to, be financially free and be in complete control of my time. I want to venture out. I want to go to Bali. I want to go to Austin. I want to go to sunny places. And then on holiday, go to forest lodges in Scandinavia or in Canada and have a true, real winter, spend 3 weeks in the snowy mountains. Because the thing with the UK is, especially if you're in the south of the UK, you just get wet, cloudy winter days like this. It's not true winter. But yeah, I've been talking for long enough. This was Waking Up with WH, or Waking Up with WH, Volume 2. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't be a deferrer. Take some action. If you're in a country where it's, going towards winter or going towards autumn, or it's going towards summer and spring, make the most of it. Spend 2 hours a day working, spend the rest of your day reading, just do the most effective tasks, and then, spend the rest of your day reading, going to the gym, going to the sauna, meeting friends, or going on dates, or spending time with your family, or going out in nature. Something I haven't done over the last few months because I really wanted to focus on the podcast and not lose sight of that, was I haven't spent a lot of time in nature, which is a very fundamental part of my life and my routine, and I'm best when I do that alongside all the other things. So enjoy yourself. Don't be a deferrer. Instead of planning and talking about what you're going to do and planning and talking about your dreams, please just start by taking a small action that will get you one step closer to that goal, and plan and correct course along the way. Goodbye.
Also, share this with a friend.